parent and the grandparent.
So let me just say this to you as well, because I think this is important for people to understand this, right? What you just said to me is most of your kids don't talk to you because of your outspoken views. That proves to me that they are the product, right, of a state education system.
Absolutely.
And I want people who's watching this to understand this, or to listen to this phrase, because it's crucial, because this is about communism. That if you send your children to a Roman school, don't be surprised when they come back supporting Caesar, right?
Yep.
So state education and the manipulation of the state, right, and the education system and the communist system is why your children are like that. Because the way I was taught, not necessarily by school, and there was a conversation earlier, it's funny how we're always the ones being caned and being thrown out of school and all that, because we was the ones who would not comply, right? We was the ones who think for ourselves, that use our own cognitive ability with our eyes and our ears. The problem we've got at the moment is propaganda, because people are watching and seeing things coming through TV channels, some YouTube channels, in fact most of them, and it's propaganda and it's bullshit. And they're the ones that they're allowing that to propagate. But getting back to that conversation that we started about the farming system, and one of the things that you've mentioned is Agenda 2030, which is very real. People can go, if they only did their own research,
Absolutely.
they can go and actually read it.
You haven't even got to go down the rabbit hole.
No, it's there.
You've only got to see the rabbit hole. It's got it written on the top of it.
and I do laugh, because all of these people, I'll give you another example of that. Currently we've got a situation with rape gangs all over England, and it's the rape of England, not the rape of Britain. And when Elon Musk, for example, said, have you read these transcripts of the trials and what they did to these girls? That is torture, right? And loads of people say, no, I haven't read that. And they're also so-called experts, barristers, lawyers, solicitors. No, I haven't read that. And you're just making a mountain out of molehill, right? The same people saying, I haven't read the transcripts, but we are denying this happened and it wasn't as bad as you said it was, are the same people that during COVID said, we're not listening to these other doctors who were qualified, that were actually showing you the evidence, right? So getting back to Agenda 2030, which is crucially important, this is about communism, right? The easiest way to kill people is to starve them to death, right?
And it's been proven.
And it's proven, right? So again, if you go back and look at the history of the Soviet Union, 17 million estimated people died through starvation, concentration camps, etc. But what people really need to understand is there is a process that's put in place for this to happen. It doesn't happen overnight, right? And what people really need to understand is what you've just said about Agenda 2030. You had the conversation with someone when you was 21, and they were saying, have you read this Agenda 2030? And the fact that all of those things are coming true, what does that mean? It means there is a strategy and a plan in place, right? Because when you go back and look at that, so part of my experience of life, so anyone watching this, because I grew up opposite the farm, and near me there was another place, it was a greengrocers, and they had a massive distribution warehouse. It was called Weeks's, right? And what happened was all the farms, their lorries would go out and they'd go to the farms and they'd pick up the spuds and they'd pick up the fruit and they'd take it back to a distribution warehouse. It would then be distributed not to supermarkets, but to greengrocers and fruiteers, right? Who were secondary and first positions on normal high streets, and then everyone would come out. You didn't have fridges and freezers like we've got today. People would buy their food every 3 or 4 days. They'd have a larder, not a fridge. The point being, it was a resilient food distribution system, right? So you had the farmers to the food distributors, and they was all businesses in their own right, all making money in their own right. Then to the retailers who are individual family, it was your skill set, being a greengrocer, right, or a butcher, or a fishmonger, and a candlestick maker, right? And it was all about the high streets and community, right? from the hops that come from the farm to
Yep.
the pubs to the
Yep.
brewing, and again, brewing was one of the biggest industries, again destroyed by the British. People need to realise, and this is partly what this conversation's about, because you are technically a farmer, right? Why I say technically is because you live on a farm, right? When you've got a bowler hat on, I actually like that. I think it's quite a statement to make, right? But you understand the story, but more than that, you understand the how the system used to work, right?
Yeah.
So from gender, you've gone from starting the process with Agenda 2030 to understanding there is a strategy, and from that plan, now you can see that they're doing everything, right?
Yeah.
So the strategy during the First World War and the Second World War, they discovered that England was food independent,
Mm-hmm.
it was food resilient, and its distribution network. And Napoleon used to describe England, right? Not Scotland, not Wales, England, right? As a nation of shopkeepers, and that was part of it. So why this discussion is important is because people need to understand there was a strategy and plan, and it's still in place, and they're still doing it. So if you can explain how this is affecting, why did the supermarkets, what happened, how did it happen? I've explained this a million times, but it's good to speak to someone who actually knows it and has got experience of it.
Okay, let's backtrack. So, firstly, we talk about the strategy they're using. So, it's well documented that whether it be Russia or China, what happened was they got the farmers to a point of breaking where they taxed them out of existence, they messed about with their ability to buy seed, everything else, exactly what we're witnessing now. And there's relevance to me saying what I'm going to say.
By the way, they've done that with the pubs as well.
Yeah, right. So, what they then did was needed to turn the public against the farmers, right? And that's the bit we're now going to see. So, on the 17th of January, the farmers are going to go and protest outside supermarkets, right? And that will be ignored like all the other protests. What will happen is then they will decide to go to the next step. And the next step will be to start barricading and blockading supermarket supply chain depots, right? And each time we go down this road of getting a little bit further in on the farming side and going, everyone agrees they've got to do something, right? But I can see what they're doing is being guided, and I think we said earlier that you were at the first farmers rally in London, same as I was, and it was so controlled, it stunk, right?
I walked away from it in the end.
Well, I did.
That's how bad it was.
I said to Gloria, I said, come on, and I messaged everyone who was on the bus with us, I said, have you seen enough? I'm going home. And I was like, okay, I'll get a taxi if you're not coming, whatever, but I ain't staying. Right? Everyone was the same mindset, everyone got on a bus, we left 2 hours early.
So there were two different types of farmers there, right? And that's the thing that people need to understand. There was the establishment farmers that are part of the system, and there was what I describe as real farmers. They're us, they're working people just like us.
Yeah. So what I think is going to happen is we're going to see a kickback from the public when food becomes short, and then the government will be able to blame the farmers for what's going on. They'll let food run completely out to the point of people starving, and then we'll go, oh, we've got a solution. And that solution will be, you'll eat bugs and be happy.